Hello there, and welcome to Dead Reflections Podcast. This is episode 29. We are your hosts,
Kolby,
Caleb,
and I'm your boy Josh, aka Drifter Voyages. Thank you so much for watching and/or listening. New episodes drop every Friday, and our goal here is to give someone at the table the chills. And if we're lucky, we might even send those spooks along to you.
Before we get into the show, we have a couple familiar with failure updates. October 9th, West Texas Fear Fest, Rolling Sevens Ranch in Odessa, Texas. That's Cosmic Productions and Sound Deep. October 13th, The Ballroom in Austin with Never Rest. And October 14th in Harker Heights, Texas with Extrixion, Everyone Dies in Utah, Rain, Beyond the Dead. We are selling tickets for that one, so hit us up for that. We always have new shows in the works, as well as shows that are announced and subject to change, but be sure to come out, catch a show, live set. Look at all the merch that we have only available at shows. And on the topic of merch, do y'all have anything special on today?
So just a disclaimer, this is our second time recording episode 29. I wore this the first time we recorded, but yeah, these are the boys and No Suffer. God damn it, I want to butcher. I had their names
had it
prepared.
good last time.
All right, we got Jay, we got Jerry, got Larry, got Toast and Irk.
Toast and Irk. Yep. Got them all. All the
Those
homies.
are the boys.
Hell yeah.
From El Paso. Go check them out.
Yeah, they're really sick. It was an honor to play with them.
Which I guess we kind of touched on it there. Episode 29, we had a little bit of technical issues. I think that one's going to linger around as a deep cut if anybody is interested. And if y'all want to hear it, it'll
be the first Patreon bonus
Yeah,
episode.
It is a little rough to listen to just because there was some weird audio thing going on. It doubled up. And it was echoey in some parts and not echoey in other parts. So
And it was random. It was strange.
if you want to listen to it, it does exist. We haven't deleted it.
Yeah,
so.
and it was about portals, and
yeah.
a dude that supposedly went and joined the aliens up in outer space.
Yeah, we're gonna say it was the entity in this room
Probably.
that messed it up.
Not us.
Not us.
I don't think we
for
can
sure
mess
not
up.
us.
Because we're human, but we're perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
I think so.
I know Caleb is.
Huh?
You are a perfect human specimen.
Yes.
And I'm happy that I get to stare at you all the time,
You're welcome.
especially when you sleep.
You're welcome.
Your eyes like twitched. That was awesome. I'm repping my boy Jason. You know,
Mr. Voorhees.
Mr. Voorhees.
Wow.
Yeah, I got this from Walmart. Dude, I am Walmart. You need to sponsor me because I rep you all the time. And then FoxGrove.
Hell yeah! Shout out
Oldie but
James.
goodie. Yeah.
I'm not sure. Have you worn that on the podcast yet?
I don't think
I don't
so.
think-
I
yeah.
just found it
Nice.
not too long ago. Like it got dropped behind like a shelf, and I was really sad.
Oh, I
and then
forgot. I
found
got
it.
Charley Crockett on the hat.
Oh yeah.
Well, shout
And
out
what
to
do you-
James.
What do you got?
Wolfskin.
Oh, Wolfkin.
The boys.
The boys out in the Dakota areas.
Yeah, dude. We played our very first show with them. They're a
great
great
people.
bunch of dudes. Yeah. And then we played our first show in Dallas with them too, or
Denton.
Denton,
but
yeah.
basically
The
Dallas.
DFW area.
Yeah, we were locked in a dungeon basement with them for a couple hours. It
They
was
had
great.
pizza though, so that was cool.
Yeah, it was really good pizza. It's fucking really good pizza.
Well, boys. So in the deep cut episode 28 and a half,
Okay, fair.
we pulled from Stephen Alexander. What did we pull, Caleb?
We got Mexico. So
Mexico?
the region, country, culture, anything that we could find to do with Mexico. So
Yeah.
briefly touching on my story is going to be a folktale from a grandma passed down to the grandchild.
Nice.
That's
And
so
just kind of what the
cool.
grandma heard when she was growing up and kind of what she chooses to say about it. And
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. It's a nice
I'm
little
super
story.
excited to hear about that because you spoke to them, right? You
Yes, it's
yeah.
a Reddit story, and I'll get into who gave it to us and their credit and everything once we get into it.
Hell yeah.
Does your story have like a monster or a cryptid or a ghost associated with it?
Possibly in a Catholic religious kind of way.
Okay.
Ooh, okay.
It's,
So maybe like demonic.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Possibly.
All right.
Gotcha.
What do you got?
So my obvious, like, when I think Mexico, I think of all the ghost stories of like the legends that Mexican parents tell their kids and whatnot. With us being from Texas, we hear a lot of those. And actually, my story involves a person from Texas going to Mexico. and it's over La Llorona,
Oh,
the wailing woman or the weeping woman.
It's the roll your tongue again, Big Daddy.
And it's funny because the people not in Texas may have never heard of that. We have heard this story
Oh yeah,
a hefty amount of times.
Oh yeah.
Very popular in our
mine
area.
has a little different twist to it.
I don't think I've ever heard that story told the same twice. There's
Right?
always
Yeah,
kind of
it's always
alters to it.
because I mean it's a legend. It's
Yeah.
it's usually just something that Mexican parents make
Or
up on the
somebody's encounter
spot.
with
On the
her,
spot.
which is always creepy.
True.
I mean,
yeah.
they even got it in fucking Red Dead Redemption 2.
Is
You
it?
run it, yeah. Then La Llorona. My story is another, like you kind of brought up the parent thing, which was interesting. Like they, parents in that culture, you know, they love to scare their children into
Yeah, just not doing things.
yeah. And mine's on the La Lechuza, which is a bruja.
Okay, a witch.
A witch.
Nice.
A bruja. I read that like that the first time.
I
was
wish
like,
I had my sword shirt still.
oh, yeah.
They have the Three Witches song,
Yeah.
Tres Brujas.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's pretty interesting. It's it's about a witch that is basically like a skinwalker, kind of
Oh,
like changes into an animal.
Oh.
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, y'all ready to dive in?
Oh yeah.
I think
Let's
so, yeah.
go.
So
Oh wait, hold on. Before we do that though,
yeah, please
Keep that
do.
candle going.
light
And
the candle.
Invite. What are we gonna give this entity a name anytime soon?
I don't know. I don't think that's up for us to decide. It's got to tell us.
I mean,
I thought we already
has a
named
full ass alphabet right there.
I thought we already named it. It was Kevin.
Maybe when we do our special episode 30, we'll bring a.
You know the
Ouija board out
microphone
there.
joke with Kevin? What if that was him?
And he's
or
just
her.
so mad that
Yeah.
we just kept going with it.
It's like my name is
New listener
fucking Kevin.
confused.
Well, it is time for my personal legend story thing over La Llorona.
I'm loving the tongue rolling, making me hot.
It was during the summer when my family decided that we should all take a trip to San Juan, Mexico, a couple miles east of Monterrey, to visit family. I was about to join the Marine Corps, so my mother wanted me to go see my family just in case something bad were to happen. At the time, I was with my pregnant girlfriend, who would later become my wife, and then ex. Since she was pregnant, I didn't want to leave her alone, so I bought her a ticket so she could come as well. Her being Caucasian with blonde hair and hazel eyes made everyone around my grandma's house curious, and our extended family came by to see the beautiful American girl. After greeting everyone, we all started to talk about what had been going on since we had left. My girlfriend was sitting next to me, having me translate parts of the conversation. One of my aunts, who knew I was into the paranormal, brought up the subject of La Llorona, aka the Wailing Woman. My mom quickly told my aunt to shut up since she knew that it would get me both interested and scared regarding it. But I was able to push my aunt to keep going. I mean, I was going to be a Marine after all, and I couldn't let a silly myth scare me, so.
Totally.
She proceeded to tell us about how whenever she would sleep over at my grandma's house, which we were currently at, if she stayed up late enough, she would be able to hear her wails. The wails of La Llorona. I'm gonna fuck that up a bunch.
It's a tough one.
My mom rolled her eyes and jokingly pushed my aunt. The subject died from there since one of my other aunts started to talk about her son and whatnot. Seeing how serious everyone had gotten for a brief moment, my girlfriend nudged me and asked what we were talking about. I told her the myth of the Wailing Woman, about how she drowned her children in a river and was destined to walk along the rivers of Mexico looking for her dead children. She, of course, laughed, not really buying any of my paranormal stories. That night, my parents decided that my girlfriend and I should stay at our old house, where I had grown up, since we were both adults and needed our own space. The house was currently being worked on, so the bedrooms had no doors or working lights. The only doors were the ones that led outside. They were fairly new, but they were your standard metal flimsy doors that a kick or punch could make it rattle throughout the house. Inside, we had to use a candle or a flashlight for our light source. I remember we even used a bedsheet as a temporary door to give our room a little bit more privacy, even though it was only us two in the house. As the night went on, my girlfriend and I stayed up talking, and eventually we both fell asleep. I don't know what time exactly, but something woke me up. I didn't have a cell phone, and my watch at the time was really cheap, so I wasn't able to tell what time it was. Looking down, I realized that my girlfriend had stolen the covers, so I slowly tried to steal some back. As I was debating on closing the window that was located right above our heads, I heard a long wail. It was a long, distorted wail. I could hear the old raspiness in her voice, as if she had been yelling for such a long time that her throat was being ready to give out. But what confused me was that her wail sounded as if it was being played through an old gramophone. I don't know if it was the scratchiness of her voice or what exactly, but it sounded like an old creepy record playing over and over. She was wailing her trademark, "A mis hijos," or "Oh, my children." That wail was what made her infamous, not just in the paranormal community, but with most people living in the rural parts of Mexico. My girlfriend started to stir and woke up. I don't remember if I woke her up on purpose, but she too started to hear the haunting wails. I was both excited and scared shitless at the same time. A cold chill traveling down my spine just reinforced my fear. The wails grew louder, making it seem as if she was slowly heading towards us. Side note, there's a myth that if you hear the wails close, she's actually far away. But if you hear them far, she might be somewhere near you. My girlfriend asked me with a half smile, "What the hell was that?" Thinking I had asked my aunts to scare us, I just motioned for her to be quiet and listen. Hearing my tone of voice, she knew that something was wrong. Another loud wail passed by, echoing inside the house. My girlfriend started shaking, terrified of what could be outside her house. I had my left arm under her head, and I could feel tears run down from her face to my arm. Each time the wail came, she would shake a little, and at the same time, I would hold her close. The wails eventually came to a peak where it sounded as if she was outside our window. Doing the only brave thing I knew, I pulled the covers over us and tried to remain as still as we could. The wails eventually faded out. And just as we thought she had gone, we heard two wild dogs viciously fighting and slamming against our outside door. My girlfriend had grown attached to this stray dog that used to walk around my grandma's farm, so while we were staying there, he would always sleep on the outside door to wait for us and greet us whenever we would come out. The dogs, or at least what we thought were dogs, fought for a good minute, slamming against the door, snarling and barking at one another. Then, as sudden as the fight started, it stopped. We attempted to stay up for a while longer to see if we heard anything else, but eventually sleep took over us. The following morning, we talked about what had happened. We walked outside to meet our stray dog, but he was gone. All that was left was stirred up dirt from the fight that happened the night before. We never got to see that dog the rest of the trip. He would usually come around, but we just told ourselves that maybe he found a place with better owners who could feed him better. That following day, while going through the border checkpoint back to Texas, we got the news of the police searching for 2 missing children on the outskirts of Monterey. A 12-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl. They questioned us if we had any information about them. As I told the officer we had no idea, I couldn't help but think of the possibility that those 2 children were taken by the weeping woman herself. I followed up with my aunt weeks later and asked her if they ever found the 2 children that went missing the night we were there. She replied yes, they found them. Both bodies of the 12-year-old boy and 8-year-old girl were found washed up on the shore of the Rio San Juan, 2 miles from my family's farm. This all happened years ago, and still to this day, whenever I pick up my daughter, I would ask my ex about what happened in Mexico, but she doesn't like talking about it. I haven't been to Mexico ever since. That's good little starter story.
That was fucking terrifying, dude. Where did you get the lottie? Whatever she was saying.
I mean, that's pretty easy to find.
Fuck you. No, that was, I don't know. Is that a new backdrop sound that you made?
Yeah.
That shit was like,
It was
that
very
was
relaxing.
perfect.
Yeah, it's a little relaxing.
Relaxing.
Yeah.
But
Caleb likes to spend his time in dungeons, guys, so that's why he thinks it's relaxing. That was terrifying, dude. That was really good.
I was surprised to see that you've never heard the distant thing. If it's far away, it's actually close.
Did we talk about that?
No, I don't think we have, but I've heard that in almost all my stories
Oh, really?
Yeah.
regarding that. Yeah.
yeah,
It's pretty common.
That's crazy. It's like,
It's like Skinwalker-esque.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like
projecting.
throwing their voice,
Yeah.
but in like the opposite way. Like
Yeah.
it's weird how it's like opposite.
That's funny. I never thought of voice throw like from Skyrim. A little
Oh
throw-
yeah, the
throw a voice
ethereal
shout,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And we always reference games. We need to just start a game podcast too. Well, dude, that was
R.I.P. from the shelf.
yeah. That was a dope story.
Thank you.
Who
So
was the
actually, the part about the children going missing, I added that.
Oh, and then them washing up on the thing, because that's like a part of her legend too. Is like she'll like
Yeah.
basically just relive by actually drowning other kids. Or,
Or she'll draw kids. Like you hear the voice and you think it's your mom, or you think
Yeah.
somebody needs help. You'll go try to save them.
Right.
You end up drowning.
And I made up the, or I didn't make up the town, but I chose a town in Mexico that made sense.
Oh yeah, it like really brought
Because
the story
there's a
together.
San Juan River that goes outside of Monterey,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a relatively close. It's about I would say probably a 3-hour drive from the border.
So this one is found on Reddit under the r/no sleep sub, and it's posted by user Quoth the Raven _. So thank you for letting me use
Thanks,
this story.
Quoth.
Make sure to go follow them. And again, the username is QUOTH the Raven
Quoth.
with an _ Quoth the Raven.
I like that.
The title of our story is Somewhere in Mexico, an Urban Legend. My grandmother is from a small desert town in Mexico that she refuses to tell us the name of to this day. She tells me and my cousins that she will never reveal her hometown's name for fear of the darkness it holds. My cousins and I were always very creeped out by the story. All that she would ever tell us about her hometown and was this urban legend that she swears is a true story. This urban legend is based on supposedly true story that happened when my grandmother was still living in the town, and she was told the details by a church official in town one evening when she and a few other people inquired about what was going on at the local convent. A few of the nuns fled the convent around that time, and they detailed the events. They were privy to the details no one else was regarding what happened those days, and told the church officials before leaving town. The church official told my grandmother and the other concerned townsfolk that the whole story as they heard it from the nuns, that they were there, and that this is how the story goes. Somewhere in Mexico, there was a little convent that has long since been abandoned by the church. Once a small yet prideful little monument of Catholicism in Mexico. It was now an abandoned relic from years past. In the early 70s, a few nuns brought a lost boy into this convent, who they called Perito. No one knows why they chose that name for him. Perito had been a mystery since he first arrived in the town. He was first spotted in rags, wandering in the desert, a pack of coyotes following him from a distance. He kept turning circles asking out loud in Italian, Dove mia madre? Or, where is my mother? This being a tiny desert town in Mexico, Italian was not a language many people spoke. The only person who spoke anything other than Spanish and or English was an abscess or a head nun at the local convent. On the day that the boy first arrived in town, a group of townspeople kept track of the wandering boy in the desert from a distance and called for one of the local church officials to investigate. The church official took the group of nuns out to the boy and would eventually bring him back into town. The boy looked to be around 8 or 9 years old. He was typically very quiet and wore a light scowl on his face almost permanently. His skin brown and dried by the sun, his eyes dark and piercing. The boy was uncooperative with the nuns. All he would ever do is ask repeatedly, Dove mia madre? Naturally, since the boy only spoke words that were in Italian, the head nun of the convent, who was fluent in Italian, French, English, Spanish, and Latin, was the only one who conversed with the boy. Astonishingly, during one of the early attempts to get the boy to give information regarding his origins, she discovered that he was also fluent in Italian, French, English, and Spanish, and later she would discover that he knew Latin as well. The head nun said that she first discovered that he knew multiple languages because the boy would sometimes sing French, Spanish, and even English nursery rhymes while they sat together. She discovered his knowledge of Latin when he was caught on multiple occasions reciting prayers in Latin while he roamed the convent halls. Sometime later, the nuns reported it as saying it wasn't the fact that he was praying in Latin that disturbed them, it was that they didn't know what he was praying to, because of his prayers were not of Christian origin. The conversations between the head nun and the boy were nothing special. The boy refused to answer questions, no matter what language the nun would use. The boy would confirm he understood what she was asking, respond a little bit in whatever language she spoke to him, then abruptly replied, Dove mia madre? The nuns were at a loss for what to do with this child, but the head nun was insistent that they simply keep the child and raise him in the name of God. She was convinced that he was a blessing from God and the nuns to be obedient, loyal servants of the church. At night, when all the nuns were supposed to be sleeping, he could be overheard singing from his little room next to the kitchen. The little boy, who chose to communicate in mostly Italian, if at all, would sing in fluent French now, a French folk song, On clair de la lune, over and over until 3 a.m., where he would fall silent and the lights in his room would go out. This is where we'll take a little step back from this. This is known, that song, as the oldest recording of any song, dating back to April 9th, 1860, and here is the original recording, followed by sound restoration attempts made to clear up all the extra noise.
And then my edit of it.
This is what they heard him singing.
It's fucking terrifying. Excuse me.
So the reason it gets cleared up... Oh, is there one more? Oh, this is the best one, I guess.
And then I edited one.
So what you're hearing is the original, one of the very first songs ever to be recorded in history, just an actual recording. So I'm assuming it's crank recorded, and that's why the first one is slow, and as it gets better, it's sped up because they put it to a time.
Yeah.
So very creepy, and that's what they heard him singing. Of course, that's not him or anything like that. Oh. They heard him singing that late into the hours until he just stopped and then went to bed.
What is it saying?
It's I read the thing about it. It is creepy, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but basically it's about it's a lullaby kind of story. So it's about a man that's going kind of door to door to neighbors saying like, "Hey, I need a pen."
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's like, "I'm looking for a pen.
And like
I don't have a pen."
no one opens the door for him.
Yeah.
He's like, he needs a pen to write something down.
And there is a thing about
like, that's the lyrics.
a lady having, she said, "I don't have a pen, but I have light, or I need light, like candlelight." And that'll tie back into our story in a little bit. Now, I don't know if that was meant to be or whatnot, but it does. So
I don't like that.
ready to hop back into it.
I feel like we just summoned a demon.
By
or
the way,
something.
the backing track is the piano rendition of that song.
Oh, okay.
So back into our story now. None of the nuns, besides the head nun, dared ever to enter the boy's room. The 7 lower-ranking nuns grew quite frightened of him. He wasn't normal. He had an eerie air to him. He would stare at the nuns during their prayers, refused to convert to Catholicism, but would often recite any prayers the nuns uttered in Latin and sometimes in an exotic language the nuns did not understand. The head nun, the most learned of them, told the sisters that the unknown language he spoke sounded like it could be some form of ancient Coptic, a language family closely related to that of the ancient Egyptians. The other nuns of the convent grew weary of how unsettled the boy made them.
What is that? I swear to God. What was that? No.
I don't know what that was.
Dude, I'm gonna cry. Dude, I'm gonna cry.
What was that? That wasn't in the recording.
Dude, I'm gonna cry. Like, that's terrifying.
I have
We
no
all
idea.
heard that.
Yeah, we all heard
Yeah.
it. Hopefully it picked up on the recording.
Wait,
Ooh.
let's take.
Test. No?
We apologize for the audio
Yeah.
listeners. But we just heard so the backing track is just the man playing the piano, and then I added some
Did it sound?
vinyl
It kind
crack.
of sounded like a child talking.
That's
right?
what I thought.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck me.
All I added was vinyl crack. I didn't add any creepy shit in that.
I'll have to go back and listen to it.
Shit balls.
All right, here we go.
The other nuns of the convent grew weary of how unsettled the boy made them, and one night, 3 of the nuns decided enough was enough. This child was no blessing. He only brought negative feelings and frightened them. The 3 nuns, with the most courage, snuck to just outside the kitchen one night. All 3 of them came together, walked through the kitchen, stopped just short of the hallway leading to the boy's room, as they looked on and listened. Huddled together, the nuns saw the flickering of a candlelight emanate from beneath his door. Then they heard his singing of En clair de la lune, soft sound from the other side of the door. All 3 of them said a quick prayer and then walked down the hallway towards his room, hand in hand, as the singing grew a bit louder with each step. The flickering of the candlelight beneath the door seemed to grow with the crescendo of the child's voice and looked less like a candle but more like a raging fire behind the door. The first nun to reach the door took a deep breath, looked back at her sisters with fear in her heart, and slowly opened the door. As she began opening, the singing stopped immediately. The candle went out, and a small bit of childlike chuckling could fill the silence in the room. The moonlight shone from a window in the room was now the only source of light within. The nuns were in pure terror, yet they did not scream. They were in shock and looked about the room for the source of the child's laughter.
Okay.
Something in the recording.
Okay.
Woo. Jesus. Spooked ourselves.
All right.
Looked for the source of the child's laughter when one of the nuns spotted a pair of child's eyes beneath the bed. This time, one of them did give out a small yelp in terror. The boy just stayed under the bed with only his eyes faintly visible and chuckled at them. Then he said, in his sickeningly sweet tone, "Dove mi madre?" The nuns huddled together, and in Spanish, one of them replied, "Your mother is not here. We will take you to your mother if you'd like. That night, those 3 nuns told their sisters what they witnessed and left with the boy into the desert, illuminated by moonlight, never to be heard from again. My grandmother would go on to tell us in the years since that night, the convent lost their support from the church, and it was abandoned. The head nun from back when they found the boy was sick with guilt. She knew her decision to keep the boy would lead to the disappearance and possible deaths of her sisters. The old head nun eventually took her own life. The town around the convent grew a bit larger with time, and somewhere in the late 80s, the town's only payphone would begin ringing from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., and if you ever dared to answer, you would hear a small bit of chuckling on the other end, and then to be asked by a child's voice, "Dove è mi madre?" before it hangs up. It was a source of some tourist buzz for a while, but by the mid-90s, the small town was ravaged by gang violence and corruption leaking out from the bigger cities around the area. That payphone was eventually gone, and the call stops altogether. However, one night in the mid-90s, 3 local kids were playing around the old convent when one of them spotted a red piece of thread sticking out of the bottom of the windowsill. The boys pulled up the thread and followed it. It led outside of the convent and into the desert. The red thread was inexplicably long and kept going and going, continuously pulling up from the sand as they followed its path. Eventually, the path ended at a giant hill of desert sand. Unsatisfied with the hill being the end point of the thread, the boys tugged on the thread as hard as they could until it yanked out of the dirt hill. Upon yanking the thread from the hill, the sand from the hill slowly cascaded down, and after a while, a large stone monument could be seen. It turned out to be a mausoleum in the middle of the desert. The door was open inside. With what little sunlight pierced the darkness of the mausoleum, you could see 5 corpses. There were 3 corpses on the floor, face down in an almost prostrating pose facing the 2 other corpses, almost like knees prayer. At the far end of the mausoleum was a stone throne. In the throne, just barely visible, sat a very large corpse, adorned in a gold crown, emerald necklaces, ruby diamond rings, and a tattered, velvety red Victorian-era dress. And in her lap sat a smaller corpse, a corpse of a child adorned with rags, clutching in his hand the other end of the red thread that the boys had been following. The boys reportedly were frightened but continued to stare at the mausoleum until one of them heard a small voice echo from inside, and in Italian they heard, "Dove è tua madre?" Where is your mother? The boys fled the site and reported it to the local officials, but nothing came of it. The boys were said to have gone back but could never find the mausoleum again without that string. And that's it. That's the story, and it's so weird, but the way my grandmother tells it in Spanish is just petrifying. All that's left of this urban legend is what the elders of that small town in Mexico agree to say. They do warn, though, if you ever are in a small desert town in Mexico and come across a red piece of thread that leads seemingly nowhere, don't follow it. Never, ever follow it. That's the end of their story. And real quick, I guess, before we talk about it again, thank you to Quoth the Raven _. Please go follow that link in the show notes and read this one for yourselves at very least. Give it an upvote so others can see it too. They also told me that there is a deep, dark history involving witchcraft and the Virgin Guadalupe cults in this part of Mexico. And when I kind of looked into it, the Virgin Guadalupe is in that red velvety dress, and she's very large. So, so that's kind of maybe mother.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I got from it.
Mother.
Real talk, like that sounds like a damn like mission on Skyrim or some shit where you
Yeah, it
find
does.
this like that's cool as shit. That was cool.
It was an enjoyable one.
That was creepy. Fuck your fucking piano audio.
Yeah, I apologize.
Freaked us all out.
It must have been the clip that I took of the vinyl crack that has like some other like.
You ruined
noise.
John. You almost made him cry.
I had goosebumps. Like my hair was.
I was ready to
standing.
fucking run.
Like I don't get scared that often. Like it
Yeah.
takes something like really, whenever I'm not fucking with you
Yeah.
because that shit. I still have goosebumps. Yep. All right. Cool.
I kind of wish we didn't figure it out so that like
Yeah.
we could have like some TikTok content.
Oh no,
or
that's
something.
definitely. We definitely got a clip out of that for sure.
Dude, that was a good story. Thank you, by the way. What was his name?
Quoth the Raven.
Quoth the
_
Raven. That's a cool name, and that was a great story. And yeah, I can imagine hearing, like an old Mexican lady like telling the story in Spanish, and you're just like all starry eyed, like what the fuck?
I think my favorite part of it was finding the recording of the first song, because I saw it and I was like, okay, like it's an old song. It's just and then I started seeing other ones. I was like, oh, this is like the oldest recording.
That's
ever.
crazy. That's cool.
It's the oldest living recording of any kind of song.
It's interesting to think about how they that's how they recorded it. Was with the crank
it was
thing.
probably into a big gramophone too.
Yep.
Oh man, that's gnarly. Well, man, both of y'all stories are awesome. I hope mine can. I kind of went
Follow those up.
I have a short story of an encounter with the Lechuza, but I mainly also went into kind of describing the origins of where this comes from and everything else along with the story. The story isn't that long, but here is the story of the Lechuza. La lechuza is a Spanish word for a type of owl, especially especially the barn owl, and it's also a term that they use to mean witch. The origin of lechuza is unknown. Stories of lechuza go as far back as when the Spanish colonized Mexico, which was in 1492.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. Some people think it is very possible that an actual giant owl is the core inspiration for the legend, since giant birds have been reported in the areas of northern Mexico and Texas for a long time. Even legends from the Native American tribes north of Texas also incorporate giant birds like the thunderbird. So it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to think that an actual giant owl is the core inspiration for this legend. Apparently they have found bones and stuff to be birds were huge back in the day in this area. The base story for Lechuza goes a little something like this. An old woman shapeshifts into a giant owl, the La Lechuza, to take revenge on people who wronged her during her life. The reason they are able to shapeshift is because they sold their souls to the devil to become witches. The owl is either giant in size with a 15-foot wingspan and sits about 6 feet tall, or is just a normal size of a barn owl. She can sometimes wear the face of an old woman on the owl's body, and are said to be strong enough to pick up a full-grown man regardless of being a giant lechuza or a small one. She lures her targets out of the house by crying like a baby, annoying you with scratching sounds, or whistling until you come out of your house to investigate. Or, and this part creeps me out because we've all experienced it, by swooping down on the cars late at night, flying in front of your car, and causing your car to have mechanical issues, everything from your windshield wipers turning on by themselves to your car lights cutting out to the car dying.
Fuck that. My windshield wipers turned on by themselves? I'm walking home.
Another popular belief involving the Lechuza is that
I don't trust that car.
is that they are possibly women who are brutally murdered by the love of their life, and so naturally they come back as an owl-human hybrid to exact revenge on them and anyone around them. Makes sense. Yeah, totally. Exactly what the Lechuza does to exact revenge varies widely across tellings of the story. The one component that stays the same is most stories end with the Lechuza carrying away unsuspecting prey to her lair to never be seen again. I have found some stories of people having a run-in with a La Lechuza and living to tell the tale. Here is one of those stories. I think this actually happened, this happened in Texas. Just outside Batesville on State Highway 57, 3 Zavala County women were on their way home from a shopping trip in San Antonio. A while into the drive, what they all described as a giant, dark, and menacing bird suddenly appeared in the headlights of their car. It was huge, they expressed later in reports. Bigger than any bird they had ever seen before. The bird flew ahead of them faster than the vehicle, swinging back and forth and bobbing up and down in front of them. The woman driving pressed her foot on the gas to outdistance the bird, which at one point circled back to fly right outside the driver's window. When this happened, she locked eyes with the bird for a moment. It almost seemed to be mocking the women, like this was all just a game to it. As soon as the driver turned her gaze from the bird's eye, the car went dead, completely. The lights went dark and the vehicle stalled, slowly losing speed. The driver managed to drift the car off the roadway, but try as she might, could not restart it. The three women, in the smartest fashion ever, decided to lock themselves in the car instead of trying to look under the hood. Something didn't feel right, and they were stuck out in the middle of nowhere with no help in sight. The bird, meanwhile, had disappeared, or so they thought. After some time, as mysteriously as it had died, the car eventually restarted. I'm sure the sight of the bright headlight beams was a huge relief for those women. Sure, it could have been any number of easily explainable mechanical things, but as far as these three women were concerned, the answer could only be articulated into one word: Lechuza. As the driver turned the wheel and started back towards the highway, the lights of the car beamed on a giant owl flying off into the night from only a few hundred yards from their vehicle, but it was just out of sight. The front passenger screamed, "Miss Andrea!" It was smiling at me. As quickly as they could, those women sped off down the highway. Thankfully, the rest of the ride home was quiet aside from the front passenger's soft prayers and silent sobs. Yes, this whole story could just be a bunch of coincidental things happening one after another. After all, it wouldn't be the first time, I'm for sure. But I can only wonder, if they would have foolishly gotten out of the car, then would they still be here to tell this tale? Because that giant bird seemed like it was waiting.
The entirety,
and then that's the end of it.
The entirety of that story, I just picture our occurrences with the owl.
Dude, like,
or at least
that's what made me it gave me goosebumps whenever
y'all
it talks about
y'all
that.
confirmed it was an owl, right?
Yeah. Well, for me, it was an
mean,
owl or a hawk, one of the two. Yeah.
Mine was white, so it had to have been.
And it was
owl.
big, so
Got a white underbelly.
My encounter was all I saw was a white object go over my car. So
and there were multiple stories that I read. The site that I got the story from was the chilling story of La Lechuza and its sinister history on lovetoknow.com. Most of the stories are like that, where it's like, yeah, it like swooped down and like scared me, so I stopped or like whatever, and then like shit happens. Like this one person, it did that, and then it flew off, and then as soon as they opened the door, it's heard whistling, and it was like, nope, and then shut the door. Yeah.
damn, and whistling.
Yeah. And then there was another one where they shot at what they thought was a La Lechuza, and the next day they found a woman with like wounds that had died like out in the desert or something like that. Yeah. And she was like an older woman, looked like a bruja, you know.
So I wonder if we don't have a banshee, if we have a Lechuza. Is that what it is?
Maybe that's what it is.
I mean, it's
For
only
those of
like
you
a
who don't know what
6-hour
we're
drive
talking
to
about,
Mexico.
we do have some stories from the road that, you know,
Yeah.
Caleb lives off of.
There's a whole episode about it.
Yeah,
Way
and
back when.
it's creepy, but yeah, it kind of brings things full circle in a way.
So
and it's weird.
that one also has echoes back to Mothman tales. I remember my Mothman one had a reference to a bird that was like giant. Like
Yeah,
it was some
it was like
6 foot tall bird or something like
yeah,
that.
that's real. Apparently,
It's a real one, yeah.
I can't remember what it was called.
I don't remember what it is either, but
Pelicans can get that big.
yeah, stuff like that. It's wild. So it's not, it's not unreasonable.
And this
Might have been an albatross.
they tell
like
this
that.
tale to kids to keep them from being out at night and
Yeah.
to like leaving the house at night, sneaking out. And it was so bad that like they were killing owls like left and right
Oh,
in
really?
northern
Damn.
Mexico.
Damn.
Yeah, like just every time they saw one, nope, not taking a chance. That owl's
See,
done.
I've always grown up to believe that owls are a sign of like peace and good luck. And so hearing something like that, I'm like, well.
They're also apparently a sign of aliens, but that's a whole nother episode.
Yeah.
But
Well-
oh yeah, also shout out to Kate Cobb, who was the one that kind of like pointed me in this direction. It was kind of cool how there's a Facebook group that she created for bands to find places to stay, find people that can, hook them up with like a free meal when they're on tour and stuff. It's called Band and Breakfast.
Oh, nice.
So if you're listening and you're in a band, you should, try and join that thing and say, it's all about bands helping each other out. And I posted about the podcast in there because, we do our merch shout outs. And I was like, oh, maybe we can, if some bands want us to send them some merch to, rep or whatever. And she like got to talking to me about the podcast situation and brought up that we should do the Lechuza story because it's pretty creepy. And and then we ended up drawing Mexico, and I was like, all right, well, I guess it's meant to be.
Yep.
So thank you.
It's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess it's time to pull from Steven Alexander.
This is my turn this time.
But let's you go ahead and go ahead and draw. We have a plan for episode 30.
Oh, we do.
We do.
Oh, I didn't know. I don't know. Tell me.
We'll tell you.
Or should we not tell him? Just make him show up. Get in the car. We're going. We got an episode to record.
So it's a good little segue. I've made the decision. Sorry. We're gonna blindfold you,
Oh.
Why me?
and we're gonna take you to the location in which we will record episode 30.
But
Because he's
I know already.
he's seen pictures of the place,
Okay.
and because you have no idea what the place looks
I'm
like.
not even
No.
sure we should tell viewers and just kind of make you should be there for this
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Okay,
Episode 30
this is going to be
will-
a good one.
will not be one to miss.
oh God, why is it gotta be me?
Let's just say did some digging of areas around our current location. I found a nice little spot for us to do an
Is
episode.
it close? Like how far away is it?
Yeah, no, it's
Maybe 20 minutes max.
no,
Oh,
not
okay.
even. From here, it's probably
About 15, 10.
10.
Yeah.
10-minute drive.
What?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
But I want to blindfold you so you have no idea where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not showing you any pictures or anything.
There is one thing I do want to add to it, just to add to that scare factor for you. We were looking at places. Not one, but two coworkers knew of this place. They were like, "Oh, that's like I don't like that place."
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
like I've been there before, and I've got
shit.
some of the worst feelings I've had. Yeah.
Oh my.
One of them being Marcus, so you know he's not lying.
Oh no.
The other one being Josh Dugan, and you
yeah.
know him.
Oh
been to a couple
no.
shows,
Another little tidbit. I went and visited this place the other day.
Don't tell me the skeptic of this podcast is like, no, this is not. You're gonna be scared.
You see my arms right now?
Oh fuck me. Well,
Josh,
so episode
let
30 is
me-
gonna be when I die.
Let me tell you, I've never been so terrified of a place. Like, I've been to a lot of creepy places.
Yeah.
We've been to haunted hotels. We've been to all kinds of places. This shit scares me.
Oh man. Well, yeah, definitely tune in to episode 30.
It's okay. We'll
We figured out how to do the podcast part
Yeah,
of it and
yeah.
everything. Right? Well, how are they gonna like? Are they gonna watch it live? Or y'all gonna go like live on Insta or something?
we'll go
It's
we'll
possible,
go
yeah.
Yeah.
we'll go live on social medias before we do it. But yeah, as far as the actual episode, you're gonna have to wait till
YouTube.
it's gonna be the 26th. That'll
All
come out.
right. All right. So if you want to see a grown man cry and probably shit himself.
Now, before that, also, before we even open this, didn't you have something spooky go on?
Yes, I did. I wrote it down.
Also, you did just moments before we started.
Oh yeah. That's
Oh yeah.
Yours
okay.
is probably easier. So
Yeah.
go real
Okay.
quick.
So I was outside right before we started recording this episode, and I was petting one of Caleb's dogs, and we heard this like weird noise. And what?
You
what
say we
freaked-
as in you and the dog.
Yeah, me
Kolby
and the dog.
myself
yeah,
were not
they,
outside.
Yeah, they were inside. What freaked me out was we both reacted to it at the same time, and then Chunk like literally got up and went to the door, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" Like he was like, "Nope," and then he literally came in. As soon as I opened the door, he ran in, and just like laid down. Like he was like, no, I'm not. I don't want to go outside. Like,
And what did you hear?
it was like a.
You said like metal on concrete.
Yeah, it
almost.
kind of sounded like metal, like just
Like
dragging,
dragging something?
like it was like this
Like a
like
machete or something?
yeah, like a yeah, that's actually like a shing like kind of noise, but it was just it was quick, and then for him to get up and like be like, you can fucking die, like I'm going inside, like I was like, oh.
So speaking of dogs and doors,
Two of my favorite things.
this is word for word. I've experienced what it feels like to have the situation of 100% proof. Like, you know, like I've been waiting for like the 100%, like can't deny that, like that was something, that was a ghost, that was something. The feeling of that, I've experienced it. I was laying in my bed watching a video on my phone. My bedroom door is touching the doorway, but it's not completely closed because like my house shifts a lot.
Yeah.
I can't really close all the way. The door squeaks, which it often does. Then it's thrown open. I'm telling you, like just and then from my position, I see no one in the hallway. My heart drops and my extremities, my hands and my knees and my calves got warm. Like it was like the blood, the blood just rushing. My dog Kenai then comes running in from the hallway.
Like spooked?
No, it was him opening the door.
Oh, that little shit.
My mom had like let him out.
Oh,
and he came
okay.
and opened the door.
Yeah, I was really happy that you had something.
I got fucking, I like, just imagine laying in a bed and your door just swings open.
Like
It didn't like slam, but it just like it. Someone definitely opened that bitch.
and then Kenai's like, hey Dad.
There's no way a draft would like
Yeah.
make the door go that fast.
I mean, I've had incidences where doors slam and shut and stuff.
I felt a wave of relief rush from the center of my body out. I was.
Are you sure that you weren't too quick to accept that it was Kenai?
No, because
So the thing is
it's
the
happened
door,
before, but I can see him.
Yeah.
He just happened to open the door and like back up to where I couldn't
okay.
see anything.
And then he's like, oh.
Yeah.
Prancing around. Such a cute dog.
And like he nudged it open, which made it squeak, and then
It's like he was like testing it. Like,
Yeah.
can I get this over? Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Dang. I haven't had anything spooky happen
Oh,
to me.
okay.
No, not recently, but let's get into the next story topic. Oh god, this is just a general one. We got cryptid.
Oh, okay, cool.
So we'll just dive back into cryptid.
Yeah, we're diving back
That's
into
fun. That's so
cryptid.
weird. I hate how
What have
that-
we done? Do you
So we have
remember?
done Mothman is the big one. I think
We haven't done Slender Man
we haven't
No.
done Slip, but he's more of
entity.
no, he's just a straight up lie. He was
Straight
a
up
made up
lie.
from creepypasta.
I mean, a lot of cryptids are just straight up made up.
But like Mothman and all those other ones from like say just take that area or historical
Yeah.
like the people have sightings.
We haven't done
Yeah.
Bigfoot.
So, yeah, Bigfoot could be one.
I have a theory. Bigfoot's just blurry.
He's like, you know,
Like, you
like,
can't
He's
like.
just pixelated.
Yeah.
Like he's built pixelated.
oh, it's kind
Yeah,
of
it's
like,
not the photographer's fault.
It's
It's a
like-
blurry ass.
That's just what he
Bigfoot.
looks like.
Yeah.
oh, it's like, you know, like how Asians, their genitals are blurry. But
But
it's his whole body.
That's funny. That's a good comparison.
Shout out Tom Segura.
I think off the top of my head, Idris Cole might be who I do. I'm not positive the origin of the Smiling Man.
Okay.
So
I remember you talking about how you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've
That
got
was, that was an
couple of-
early episode that you did. We did Spine.
We still got to do Mr. Smiles.
Because you talked about your personal encounter with a smiling
Yep.
man. And
He's
so-
like, why did you remind me of that? By the way, you still haven't removed
Yeah, no,
the-
I don't want to touch it. Which the people listening don't know, but the deep dive or deep cut episode, I spooked myself with my own story.
Oh, that's right. That was on that
And
episode.
they're not going to be able to hear it.
Fuck me.
Again, if you want to hear that episode, again, we can't stress enough, it is rough to listen to.
We can
Yeah.
put it out as episode 18.5.
Yeah.
Or 28.5.
28.5, yeah. Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
we've been at it for a minute now.
28.5. Jesus Christ.
Y'all let us know. Because if we don't hear y'all say that you want to listen to it, we're not going to do anything with
Yeah.
it. It's just not up to our our standard of what we want to put
It'll
out.
just collect dust in our Dropbox archives. But all right.
So this will be for later. Again, these are not per episode anymore. This is going to be at some point, probably soon, because the next episode is going to be a milestone one, episode 30. Make sure you don't miss it.
Yeah, don't miss it. All right. Well, that's it for episode 29 of Dead Reflections Podcast. We'd like to shout out our friends in Dark Hour Podcast and Honolulu Podcast, Bitter Instinct, Twitch, and her Rainbow Six Community Tournament on September 3rd through the 4th, where there will be FWF merch for grabs and for the winning squad.
You do it every episode. It's been every episode.
That's
Whoever wins the
written
tournament gets some merch.
Yeah, you get your
Yes.
choice of we have a couple new merch items, so make
Yeah.
sure you hop into that.
definitely. We encourage y'all to give them a listen and check them all out.
You can follow us at Dead Reflections Podcast on all social medias, or follow the link tree to find our socials, which are Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the video version of this podcast on YouTube, as well as the newly made
Follow us on TikTok.
TikTok,
We
there
are
we go.
trying to go live. We need 1,000 followers.
You can email us at deadreflectionspod@gmail.com to submit your stories. Let us know how we're doing. I don't have a third thing. Is there anything you want them to email us about?
Email us about however many times your doorknob has been locked with you in the room.
Okay. All band-related social medias can be found at FWFTX.
Please don't forget to leave a rating or review anywhere you listen. They really do help us get our name out there and find new listeners. Thank you for all your continued support. And remember, tell your family, tell your friends, and tell the monsters under your bed to listen to Dead Reflections Podcast. Have a spooky night.